Hey guys, good morning. How you doing? Steve, welcome to my office. For those of you who haven't been here, I guess I'll take that as an opportunity to remind you all that Mondays, 10:30 to 11:30, and Tuesdays, 3:30 to 4:30 are office hours. So feel free to come by, see it in person. In the meantime, while you guys are sitting on a beach, chilling out somewhere, studying hard for exams, whatever you're doing, I'm here working away as well. I want to talk a little bit about the peerScholar assignment. There really isn't that much to say, but I just want to be clear about a couple of things. So, first of all, I am going to start an FAQ off the peerScholar tab. So as people ask questions, I'll kind of list them on the FAQ. They may also obviously be addressed on the discussion forum. So keep an eye on that. That'll evolve as the term goes. And if you have a question, check their discussion forum or FAQ before sending a new one. All right. But the basic idea is just this. I want to challenge you guys to be creative. And also to, once again, try to form a good argument. And the context, of course, is with respect to gang violence. I'm saying gang violence in Toronto. I think it sometimes will help a little bit to make this feel a little more real. So what I'm imagining is the following scenario. You have graduated from university. You've taken some psychology courses. Imagine. You're now working in City Hall, not necessarily for the current mayor, so this isn't about the current mayor, but imagine you're working in City Hall and this issue of gang violence is still around. And obviously everybody would like to do something about it. For the city itself, obviously, but also for the people affected, those directly involved. And by the way, when you think about those directly involved, it's pretty easy to think about the 17 or 18-year-olds that might actually be shooting each other or whatever, and to feel a little bit, I don't know, distant, removed, not my problem. I often, when I think about that issue, think about the 11 or 12-year-olds, the young, typically boys, in these areas, living in an area for which gangs are around. They are, if you join them, a source of strength. But also, obviously a source of violence and many other things, and can lead down a road where you are that 17 or 18-year-old with the gun or getting shot. And so, think less about, this is just my advice, you can write about what you want, but I certainly think less about the older indoctrinated people, and I think more about the young people, and I try to think, if we had the optimal city, we would have a city where children didn't choose gangs as a way of life, and that might be the best way to eliminate it. But at any rate, I don't want to do your assignment for you. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about things you've learned in psychology. I also want you to poke around on the internet, look at some websites, see what people are saying, and ultimately try to come to some notion of one thing. And again, let's always keep this to one thing. Let's keep it simple at some level. One thing you think that the city could be doing to try to really address this issue. And I don't want you to choose the boring cliche things. So what I mean by that is the two that are most obvious is, well, just get guns off the streets. Sounds good. Not so easy to do. So if that's going to be the goal of your piece, to try to get guns off the streets, then you need a good idea of how to get guns off the streets. So don't just say something as sort of all-encompassing as get guns off the streets, or the other favorite one is have longer, tougher jail sentences. And if we had longer, tougher jail sentences, then nobody would do any of this stuff. That's been tried and hasn't really been very successful. So what I would like you to do is to try to think of something a little bit more interesting, something you actually think might work, and then to not only present your idea, not only say this is what I think you should do, but also to give the person some notion of why that may be a good idea. So you don't just want to throw some opinion out there. I think they should do this. It should be more like, I think they should do this, and here is why. So pointing to research that's out there, that kind of thing, and giving an idea support basically. So proposing the idea, but then also backing it up with support. Now, this is why, of course, we want these not to be long. So I typically say 4 to 6 paragraphs of 4 to 6 sentences each. I imagine if you wrote it out, it would be somewhere between a page and 2 pages tops. And a page might be enough. So I don't want it to be long, and yet I want you to argue something well. And in order to do those two things, I suggest that you try to pick one issue. So one thing that you think could be done. And then just try to express well why you think that thing could be successful. Maybe you think it should be successful as part of a more general approach, but I guess what I'm encouraging you to do now is do not try to talk about, what I would do is these 5 changes at once. You can think that maybe, I'm going to suggest something that maybe you could include as part of a bigger picture, but here's the one thing that I think I will really want to emphasize in my piece. So that, ultimately imagine there may be a table of advisors coming around the mayor. He's charged all of you guys to brainstorm ideas and to be ready to present your idea succinctly, and kind of imagine that's the scenario that you're working in, that people are going to one at a time say, here's my idea, here's what I think we should do, and here's why I think it'll work. And when you're expressing ideas that way, which again is a very valuable skill, efficiency is really key. You don't want to bore people to death. You don't want to go round and round. You want to get to the point, say it, express it, here's why it'll work, boom, done. So that's what we're going to be looking for. You'll see when you log in, so you can log into peerScholar using your UTOR ID, so it's peerscholar.ca. Then use your UTOR ID as your username, and your student number as your password. You'll see more instructions there. You'll also see a rubric there that'll give you a sense of how I want all of us to think when we're assessing the work. And of course, keep in mind that when you are assessed, that rubric really pertains to how you'll be assessed in terms of the quality of your draft and the quality of the final product. But you're also going to be assessed based on the comments that you give to your peers when you get to the assess phase, and on the appropriateness of your revision. So let me just talk about those two quickly. Comments to your peers. Make sure there's sort of 2 things in your constructive comment, because your constructive comment's most important. Make sure you're pointing out some issue or problem, something that could be improved, but make sure you also clearly suggest an approach for that. Give the person some sort of head start. Here's sort of how I think you could improve it. Now, you don't have to be, you don't have to tell them exactly what to say, obviously, but I want to see more than criticism. I want to see help. I want to see students helping each other. So I want to see some sort of constructive little push. I think this isn't optimal. I think maybe if you tried doing it this way, or if you considered adding this, or something like that. Something that you really are trying to be helpful, because that's what we're going to be looking for when we grade the quality of your comments to peers. How helpful are you being to peers? With the appropriateness of the revision, I really want you to think very deeply about all of the comments you receive back. And then ultimately, you use the ones that you think are good in your revision. But you're going to also be asked to justify the changes you made and the changes you didn't make. So if somebody clearly suggests something to you, but you don't think that's a good way to go, you don't have to do what they say. But when you kind of justify your revisions, you should say somewhere, by the way, I did not follow Peer 4's advice. I thought about it. So this is what we want to see in that box. We want to see evidence that you thought about it, you considered it in light of your work, and then either you made a change because you ended up thinking this would help, or you didn't because you ended up thinking it wouldn't be any better. Your work wouldn't be any better if you did it. So keep those in mind as you go through. So first, it's all about this letter to the mayor. And I've already had questions when I say letter to the mayor. Let me back step on that. I don't mean Dear Mayor Ford, here's what you should do. So I don't mean letter to the mayor. I said it and I'm taking it back. What I mean is advice to the mayor. Okay, so think more that boardroom table, but you're writing it out in a structured way because maybe he wants you to present your idea and then hand it in. because he wants to think about them a little bit more. So think about it that way, a more formal presentation of your idea. Now, a couple of questions that always come up: how formal does it have to be? I always dodge that question by saying the following: you want to present a powerful, efficient argument. So for example, should it be first person or third person? Normally I would think third person, but there are cases where a first person argument may be more powerful. If you're not sure, try writing it both ways. Great practice. And then look at them both, or ask somebody else to look at them, and ask which one feels more powerful, and go with that one. Now the other question I always get asked is about references. And let me just harp on the plagiarism / references point a few times, because some people got that wrong in AO1, and some people got 0 on the assignment because what they had submitted was clearly copy and pasted from a website. If we see that, then even if you copy and paste little bits and put it in, you're going to get 0. If you copy and paste in a much more wholesale way, you may get thrown out of university. Okay, so be very serious, be very conscientious of plagiarism. What we want are your ideas. Now, your ideas are going to be influenced by the things you read and the things you think about, and that's okay. But you read, you think, you chew it all, and then you describe what you think should be done in your words. If you're using somebody else's words, you must quote them and you must reference them, or else you're plagiarizing. Okay, so that's the sort of dramatic plagiarism talk. Let me step back now and just say, more generally, I've said before that you could probably do this well with a well-structured logical argument, but I now realize that's a very difficult thing to do. So what I'm going to recommend instead is that you use the notion of presenting your idea and then giving some good reasons why that's a good idea, which usually will mean referencing stuff you found somewhere, either in printed works, on the internet, wherever. And so do make sure those are referenced. If you want to know how to reference it, as a default, APA is always a really good idea. Okay, so I'm not going to ask us or the TAs to mark you based on APA specifics, but it's still a good idea to get used to it. So when in doubt, use APA. But critically, what you will lose marks for is if you make some claim that sounds like it's a fact, sounds like you found something somewhere. The person who's reading it has to be able to get to that fact. So you have to give them enough information to check your facts and to check the reliability of the sources that you're using for your facts. So in some way, shape, or form, it could be just bracket a URL for a website, bracket, but in some way, shape, or form, the person reading your work has to be able to check your facts. So anytime you make a statement of fact, make sure there's some reference behind it. I think that's it. Another thing we're looking into doing, I haven't heard from Ainsley yet whether we can do it, is we may reopen the analyze phase of digital lab coat in case you want to play with data while you're thinking about stuff. You may literally want to use the class's data and kind of check if certain things are related or whatever. And so, hey, I like you playing with data and thinking about stuff like that. So I'm going to try to make that happen as well if we can. That's all I got. Good luck. If you have questions, email me. Don't expect a reply. Look for the FAQ on the peerScholar site. That's where it'll show up. All right, that's it. I'm shutting up. Have a good day. Enjoy your reading week.